guys, it's Vicky, and today I'm here to do a video that I have never done before. Typically talking about stats and goal check-ins and things like that. Usually I just do a mid-year check-in with you guys, let you know how things are going. But I recently put a poll out on YouTube asking if you guys would be interested in quarterly stats, and you said yes. So today I'm going to be talking about how the first 3 months or the first quarter of 2021 has been for me reading wise, give you some stats, talk about some of my favorites, and some stuff that I want to work on going forward into quarter 2. So let's get into it. All right, so I have all of my stuff written down in my planner. And okay, the first thing, obviously, let's talk about my total reading goal, number of books I want to read for 2021. I set the goal at 60, which is a little low, but I figured as long as I'm reading at least 5 books a month, that's awesome. So I set my goal at 60 and I have read 30 books so far. I'm already halfway to my reading goal, so I may raise that bar a little bit just because I'm already halfway there, so why not? Of those 30, 20 were physical books and 10 were audiobooks, so not too bad. I definitely have upped my audio book game in the last year or so, especially since now I have Overdrive from my library. I also have Hoopla, and then I get Scribed, which I find a lot of new stuff on Scribed, which is awesome, and I don't have to wait like I do at the library. So yes, audiobooks have definitely upped in the last year or so. And the number of pages read, and I don't count audiobooks when I do that, even though some of the audiobooks I do read along with, I don't count them because I just don't. Pages read, physically read, is 4,067. So that's pretty awesome. Okay, so if we're gonna break it down into genres, leading the pack, which doesn't really surprise me because, well, let me tell you what the genre is first. Leading the pack with 10 is middle grade and YA, and that doesn't surprise me because A, middle grade March happened in March, and I read a lot of middle grade books, and then also I am doing a read-through of the Chronicles of Narnia, which is, I'm considering middle grade, even though it's also like a class, like considered a classic or whatever. I'm counting it as middle grade in terms of genre. So that's why I think middle grade has led the pack. I don't think that will be the case going forward for the rest of the year. But again, no surprise, followed by middle grade March with 8 is horror and sci-fi. That is not a big surprise, though the sci-fi section is a little bit, but that's because I am reading Saga, which I'm kind of considering a sci-fi story. Otherwise, there would probably be no sci-fi. But the horror being second is not a surprise to anyone. Okay, then the next one, the next genre is with 5 books read. It's contemporary. So that's pretty much on brand. Followed by 4 nonfictions, which is pretty good because I always try to read at least 1 nonfiction book a month. So I'm kind of a little bit ahead of the game there, which is great. And then lastly, with 3, we have thrillers and mysteries, which I'm kind of surprised. I thought that that would be a little bit higher, but looking back, I'm like, yeah, I haven't really read that many thrillers and or mysteries so far in the year. Okay, so the way that I kind of set up my book planner and everything is every month I pick a favorite out of that pile that I read that month and kind of do a little page about it. So I do have 3 favorites that I want to mention, and then 1 like honorable mention because I just felt like I wanted to mention it even though it wasn't technically a favorite in any of the months. But my first favorite for the year so far is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. This was a nonfiction book. It was my first nonfiction book actually of 2021, and it's a memoir about Carmen's time in an abusive relationship with another woman. And the way that she approached writing that memoir was just so amazing. Just some of the sort of, she kind of tells the story by using various storytelling tropes that you find in movies, books, everything. And it was just brilliantly done, brilliantly done. Such a harrowing story. very eye-opening, great writing. Yeah, I loved it. I listened to it on audio, highly recommend if you are looking to read that book. It is narrated by Carmen herself, so yes, that's a great one. My second favorite so far is White Oleander by Janet Fitch. This was a contemporary book. I read it in February, and it was my February favorite, and I loved this book because of the writing, for one thing. It was just hit my sweet spot in that way. It was flowery enough, but not overly done, in my opinion. I loved the story. I loved what the book had to say about womanhood and coming of age, being a female and coming of age, and various ways that things happen when that goes on. And also just about motherhood, about the mother-daughter relationship. It was just a really great story, and I really loved it. And then my third favorite is my favorite read from March, which is The Devil All the Time by Donald Ray Pollock. Sorry about that. This was a horror novel that it was really gritty, really dark, but I loved it. I loved that there was all these different stories going on, but they eventually converged, and the ending just blew me away. I really loved it. It was, like I said, super dark, but so atmospheric, and it just drew you in, and the characters were all very layered, and you know, there was a lot of like badness to them, but you also just couldn't help but be drawn to them. It was just a great read. I loved it. And then my honorable mention that I have to mention is my reading of Saga. I have currently read 5 volumes. No, how many volumes have I read? I think I've read 5. I don't remember. But anyways, the first couple were 5 stars, and then and then the other ones have been 4 stars. I've really enjoyed the series, and it's weird because it's not typically a series that I would gravitate towards, but it drew me in from volume 1. I just love everything about it. I love the art style. I love the characters. The story, even though, like I said, it's kind of a sci-fi story, and I sometimes have a hard time wrapping my head around that stuff, but I love it. It's so good. I can't wait to finish it. I know it's not completed, but I can't wait to, you know, catch up and be waiting for that next volume to come out. Although, I don't know, that might be hard, having to wait for the next volume, especially I've heard the way that the last volume kind of ends. You're just like, what? So yeah, I'm really excited to get there. Okay, so now I want to kind of do a little bit of a goal check-in, which is good, I think, because typically I make my goals in the beginning of the year, and then I don't really pay attention to them very much until more towards the end of the year, and then I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I didn't do that, or ooh, why did I even make that goal? So I'm kind of glad that I'm doing this, where I'm kind of checking in and seeing where I'm at. And I made, you know, I had quite a list of goals that I wanted to complete in 2021. So the first goal obviously was to read 60 books, and I'm doing great with that. I'm already halfway to that goal, so I mean, no complaints there. I also had a goal to read 3 classics, I believe. Was it 3? Let me look at my goal sheet really quick. I believe it was 3, yes. And I haven't completed a classic yet, but I am working on it. I'm currently reading Anna Karenina, and it was brought to my attention that if I read Leaves of Grass, not only is it poetry, but it is also a classic. So I'm going to be starting that one very soon. So I'm on my way to fulfilling that goal. I think it'll be all right. Speaking of poetry and Leaves of Grass, I haven't read any poetry yet this year, but again, I'm hopefully going to be reading Leaves of Grass very soon. And then I do have a couple of volumes that I have on my TBR shelf that I hope to complete at some point in 2021. So hopefully that goal is still possible. I also made a goal to read 5 Stephen King books, and so far in 2021 I have only read 1. I have read Later, his newest release. I have actually read it this month in April, so I'll be wrapping that up in my wrap up. And I'm not really worried about not hitting that goal because I still have the whole year to go. And I always end up, especially towards the end of the year, in like the fall and winter is when I tend to read a lot of Stephen King. So I'm not worried about not meeting that goal either. I also made a goal to read mostly from my shelves, and so I went through and saw how many of the 30 were from my shelves, were books that I owned or books that I purchased to read. And of the 30, 26 of them have been books that were from my shelves. So I think that's pretty awesome, that I am focusing on, you know, the physical pile on the shelves and trying to read from that. Although I do love supporting my library, and it's hard to go in there because I go in there all the time to get stuff for my kids, and it's hard because I see books there and I want to grab them, but I'm like, no, you got books at home. So eventually, hopefully, I'll be able to find more of a balance there where I don't have as many to read here at home, where I can support the library more. I also wanted to try to read more from my Kindle because I have found that I get books from my Kindle and then I forget about them. So I've made more of an effort to read from that, and I've done okay. I've read 3 books from my Kindle, and I'm reading Anna Karenina on my Kindle right now, and I am also reading Sawkill Girls right now on my Kindle. So I'm working my way, trying to do better. Hopefully I will be able to increase that number a little bit and kind of make that ratio a little better in terms of, because that really does count as my TBR also. They are books that I have purchased, they're just digital, and so I do need to kind of make sure I read those too. I also wanted to read 5 Goosebumps books, and I haven't read a single Goosebumps book. And I'm really surprised by that because I thought for sure in middle grade March I would read a couple, and I didn't read any. So yeah, I kind of want to change that. I definitely want to continue my read through. I believe I'm on the 6th one. It's either the 6th or 7th, so I have a lot to go because there's like 60, I think, total. So yeah, it would be great to be able to meet that goal and read 5 Goosebumps. And then I also had a goal to take part in some reading challenges to kind of help diversify my reading and just to kind of help me maybe get out of my comfort zone a little bit. And I've done okay with that so far. The 3 challenges that I was kind of focusing on was the Buzzword Reading Challenge, which is hosted by Kayla from Books and Lala. And that one is, it's basically 1 buzzword a month, and you try to read, the way I'm doing it is read 1 book with that buzzword, and so far I'm 3 for 3, so that's good. Doing good with that one. I also have the Reading Women Challenge for 2021. That one has 24 prompts, and I've only completed 3 in the first quarter. So I could definitely up that a little bit. I had no intention of fulfilling all of the prompts for these reading challenges, but I was hoping to do a little better than 3 out of 24. So I definitely want to kind of up that a little bit, especially that particular reading challenge, because that is the one that is definitely going to take me more out of my comfort zone. So I really want to try to focus on that one going forward. And then the last reading challenge I'm doing is the Books in the Freezer reading challenge, which is obviously hosted by Stephanie from Books in the Freezer, the podcast. It's a horror podcast, so the challenges all have to do with reading horror, which is right up my alley, right? And so far for that one, there are 16 prompts for that, and I have completed 4, so that's pretty good. I mean, if I do that every quarter, then it'll be completed. So we'll see. So that one's doing good too. All right, so I think overall, quarter 1 for 2021 has been pretty good for me. I definitely have some areas that I want to try to focus on going forward. And I definitely have things planned to help for some of these challenges to help fulfill them in the coming months. So yeah, I think it's going pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Let me know down below how your first quarter went, if you keep track of those things. How are you doing with your goals? What have your favorite reads been for this first chunk of the year? I would love to hear about that. But other than that, that's all I have. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And like I said, I'm going to try to do it this year, do quarterly check-ins and see how that goes, see if we like them. But yeah, other than that, that's all I have. I hope you guys are having a great week, and I will talk with you soon. Thank you so much for watching.